Yeah. Boom to the hay, all you sports fans out there in the two-bowl-sphere, to you, the individual, as part of the collective. Welcome to Fast Track Sports College here on Talk Radio version of the OMSR. I am your brief but very concise host, Will, the alternative ESPN Sports Thrill. Always do a little voiceover show like this. Let you know the clip order coming up. And the whys to wherefores as part of upcoming Gen 5.0. Probably to be launched when college football actually starts. Quickie Sport Rant comes after the video highlights, which I am doing now. Think of this as like Gen 4.5. So, talking briefly and concisely about that time of year, the OMSR dedicates a lot of time to college football spring news and such. Help to turn up the tension until the end of August. This episode, we're talking briefly about who from the SEC is going to make this new format, this new era we are entering into, the CFP, College Football Playoffs, from the SEC, and then predictions as to who's going to win out of the Big Five conferences. The Big East no longer considered part of that group when it was 6 back in the BCS era. Quickie Sport Rant's going to be about predictions from the OMSR as to the conferences and all the variables coming up. In the meantime, roll clips.
What I'm about to tell you. You got a bunch of guys that are getting ready to start a journey. You said to go for the season today. We made a commitment day one that our tempo was going to be flawless. You got to think and you got to hustle when you're tired. Did you push yourself to be great today? If you didn't do it, you lost today. We ain't got many days to lose.
100 days until kickoff. August 28th can't get here soon enough. Life Without Johnny Football will begin on the SEC Network. And Life Without Chris Peterson at Boise State when they visit Ole Miss. Welcome inside College Football Live with Ed Cunningham, Chris Lowe, Brett McMurphy. I'm Zubin Mehenti. We mentioned 100 days out starting today, but Alabama-Auburn is talked about 24/7. 365, so it seems like a good place for us to begin as well. As many of you recall, the stunning loss in last year's Iron Bowl was all that presumably kept the Tide from playing for their 3rd consecutive national championship. Instead, the Tigers went on to win the SEC title game and nearly became the 8th straight team from the league to win the national championship. They are indeed measuring sticks for each other again. Kind of take a look at the tail of the tape between these two arch rivals. Auburn and Alabama couldn't have more different styles. Bama lost a ton to the NFL as usual. Auburn's got a lot of key guys back, but a couple of big ones have moved on. Greg Robinson, 2nd overall pick to the Rams, and Trey Mason, who really was the lightning bolt late last season, has also moved on. So we welcome you back inside under the auspices of the College Football Playoff. Both of these schools could end up getting 2 of those coveted 4 spots. But let's just say only one of them can get there. Better chance it's Alabama or Auburn.
You know, we talked about this a bit yesterday, and for me, I think it's easy to say Alabama, so I'm going to say Alabama.
Okay.
But the point is, if you look at Auburn's schedule, and I think, Brett, you said this yesterday, with the close games they had last year, they kind of flip back and forth. Those games when you win with a 100-plus yard missed field goal, you just can't expect those. But if you look at their schedule, at the end of October, at Ole Miss, then they go Texas A&M, at Georgia, at Alabama, and then they'd have to play the SEC championship game. I don't think there's any chance Auburn gets out of that unscathed. So I'm not sure Alabama goes undefeated. I think Auburn has 2 or 3 losses before that's scheduled.
You cover the SEC every day.
Well, I'll go a step further. I don't think anybody in the SEC gets through unscathed next year. I think last year is pretty indicative of what we're going to see going forward. I like Alabama's schedule, too. I think it sets up nicely for them. West Virginia, I don't think is going to give them much of a test. They get Auburn back in Tuscaloosa this year.
Yeah.
I think that helps, especially when you're bringing in a new quarterback, which we all presume will be Jacob Coker, to sort of get him going and really get him into the field.
I agree, too, Alabama. I think the motivation factor there for Nick Saban, last 2 times he's lost 2 or more games. All he did the next year, win the national title. Jacob Coker, I know, is a big question mark at quarterback. I talked to Nick Saban. I talked to Jimbo Fisher last week. They both raved about him. Jimbo Fisher had some interesting things to say about him as a runner. He said he's a very good runner, a better runner than a lot of people think, and that gives Alabama's offense something it hasn't had in the past. And speaking of something it hasn't had in the past, oh, by the way, Lane Kiffin is the new offensive coordinator. Saban said he's done fine so far. He has a lot of knowledge. He said the players respond very well to him, but obviously Kiffin will be under a microscope directing Saban's offense.
You know, that's when we were talking last year to Jimbo Fisher, and it was before, remember, Coker got hurt late in the season, and everyone was worried because everyone understood Jameis Winston was playing great, but Coker was in a battle with Winston right up until the end of training camp, and they said that exact same thing repeatedly, Brett, that if Winston were to go down when Coker was healthy, the players and coaches had all the confidence in the world in Coker because he was a confident guy, he knew the system, a good athlete, good thrower, so I've heard that a bunch.
That's incredibly high praise considering he went toe-to-toe with the guy that ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. So the consensus on the set is that it's Alabama. But if it's not Alabama or Auburn, you said not everybody's going to go through unscathed. There's a lot of parity in this league. Give me somebody besides the Tide of the Tigers who might be able to break through.
I had Georgia at the end of the season in the Gator Bowl, even though they played poorly at times, ton of drops. If they catch 5 balls, they win that game pretty easily. Not that Hudson Mason played great, but he got some experience. He played well in the second half with the runners they have returning. And I think Jeremy Pruitt, the new defensive coordinator at Georgia, I covered Florida State a bunch last year. The more I was around Pruitt, the more I was impressed. He plays that match zone defense like they do at Alabama. And I think with some of the players they have coming back, especially in the secondary, I think the defense is going to be much better. Georgia's schedule, obviously, start with Clemson, very difficult. But, Brett, I think this is a team, if things go right, they could be in the hunt at the end.
I'm looking at South Carolina. If they get Georgia in week 2, if they win that game, the schedule's set up. They should cruise to 7-0. The back half is tough, though. They alternate home and road games against Auburn, Florida, and Clemson. Obviously, Dylan Thompson back at quarterback. Mike Davis at running back. I think, Chris, he'll be one of the top running backs in the league if he can stay
Today
healthy.
The season is 100 days away. Life without Johnny Football begins at Williams-Brice. Good luck there. It's all part of an SEC Network doubleheader. Chris Peterson won't be roaming the sidelines for Boise State for the first time in quite some time. That's the beginning of the season. We're already shooting ahead to the end, picking your major conference champions. Chris, we begin in the ACC.
Well, it's got to be Florida State. Now, I know they're going to be 100. They're coming off winning a national championship, but there's just nobody in that conference right now that can match up Seminoles in terms of talent, depth, overall athleticism. I like what they did last year, responding. I think they do the same thing this year. And listen, when you got the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, it's always a good place to start.
Ed to the Big 12.
You know, Oklahoma, I think, is the easy pick here, and I think if you laid all the teams out, they would be the one. But the reason I'm not picking them is it seems like every year when we pick them, they fall on their sword and don't play well. So just because of that, I'm going to pick Baylor. Of course, they get Bryce Petty back. They have a good running back core. They've got some speed. I'll pick Baylor, but it's only because Oklahoma usually slips up.
Chris is our SEC guy, but Brett, I'm going to let you pick the team.
I wish I had a Keith Jackson voice to go, Alabama. But I think with the addition of Lane Kiffin, I really think Amari Cooper will flourish this year. Nick Saban told me we're not going to change what we do on offense, but we are going to improve what we do offensively. I think they correct the defensive issues also that really plagued them at the end of last year.
Chris Wonelli to the Pac-12. We got it in.
You know, the Ducks don't have a national championship to show for, but I think you can still make a case. Over the last few years, they've been as talented, certainly as explosive as anybody on offense. Marcus Mariota is healthy. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder. I like him this year in the Ducks.
The best of the Big Ten, Ed, is who?
All right, I'm going to get killed for this, but I'm going to go with Nebraska.
Ooh.
And if you look at the entire season last year, they had all the injuries. They started trending up at the end of the year. I think this is the best defensive front. And Bo Pelini said this is the best defensive front he's had since Ndamukong Suh played. Randy Gregory. Everyone's buying this Ohio State thing. Ohio State lost 4 offensive linemen off of last year's team. They lost Carlos Hyde. And I don't care what anybody says. Braxton Miller, when it comes down to it, he's not accurate enough, I don't think, to win a big game. I think Nebraska loses to Michigan State in the regular season, and then I think they beat Michigan State in the Big Ten championship.
Rebuttals on
It's
Big
funny
Red
you
here.
mentioned 4 because that's how many games Bo Pelini has lost in each of his 6 years. But by making that prediction, I guarantee you'll have some new kittens arrive at your house as a courtesy gift.
Now, you're picking Ohio State, Ed. Does it say more about, Nebraska, more about Nebraska? Does it say more about where the Big Ten is?
Big Ten, you know, I was in the Big Ten a lot last year, and I was shocked at how poor the quarterback play was. I mean, just across the board, there wasn't a team that I studied and said one of those quarterbacks could start in the Pac-12, could start for a good team in the SEC. And I know people talk about Braxton Miller. I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen elite play out of him at the quarterback position. I know he's a good runner. I know he can make things happen, but his accuracy's off. His timing's a bit off. But having Nebraska in the Gator Bowl last year and spending time with that staff, they are so confident with what they're doing on offense. They have Amir Abdullah, who is someone you can build around. And I know it's a flyer, but I like Nebraska because I'm with you, Chris. I don't think the Big Ten's great.
All right, last word on that, still to be spilled. We'll talk about that along the way. Before we go, you've got some news for us today.
Yeah, former Alabama linebacker Derrick Thomas is going to the College Football Hall of Fame tomorrow. Finally, he finished his career at Alabama in 1988, his senior year, a school record, an NCAA record, 27 sacks. It's kind of been a mystery why he has not been into the Hall of Fame before now. Tomorrow it will be official, along with 15 other individuals in the announcement from Irving, Texas.
Yeah, he'll be inducted posthumously. One of the great guys you'll ever meet on or off the field. Died in a tragic car accident. The entire class, by the way, will be announced Thursday, and we'll have it for you here on College Football Live. No better honor than being enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame.
All right, some good stuff going on there. By the way, for those of you who have not been necessarily privy to Ed Cunningham, because he is a West Coast guy, but he does end up somehow doing a lot of being the color guy for SEC games. Very well spoken. UW National Championship. I believe he was, I could easily look it up, but the OMSR is the old everything else, right? Don't have a research staff area. Be like, hey, yo, Dylan, go find out what position Ed played when UW got its national championship in '91. I think it was a tight end, offensive line. Definitely on the offensive side of the ball. Very well spoken, very well thought out, his thoughts. And everybody else there, of course, as well. Quickie sport rant of the segment. Big Ten, it's anybody's guess there. Nebraska, I'm not so sure about that. Ohio State, I think, is got more pull. Either Ohio State or Michigan State. The SEC, undecided. It could be Georgia. It could be Auburn. Is it going to be Alabama? Possibly. Lane Kiffin gets the offense humming along. ACC, Florida State, that's definitely probably a shoo-in, but you never know. No Maryland in the ACC anymore, so who is going to step up and fill that mid-Atlantic gap? Virginia? North Carolina? Maybe North Carolina. Pac-12, this is the one that's most up in the air. You've got UW, new quarterback coming in with Chris Peterson. You got Colorado making strides. Don't laugh. They're going to be much better this year. USC, UCLA, still got Stanford lurking about. Oregon State returning a lot of continuity from last year. And then the Big 12. Oklahoma, Baylor, Texas. Boy, you got more conferences that are much harder to call now. But, hey, it makes for fun in terms of, it gives us all something to talk and think about, because here it is, the end of May. June, July, and 3 weeks of August, and we'll be there soon. All the video highlights courtesy to ESPN and College Football Live. Everything else, the OMSR. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching those silly DUIs while you're out there celebrating the playoffs, especially in the state of California. We are later out of here.